Welcome to episode 1 of the Bizz Bitch podcast. I'm Jazmin, your host, founder of the Bizz Bitch community, a space for bold women to show up and build community as entrepreneurs. We are a sisterhood, we are a friendship circle, but we also are women who want to make a lot of fucking money and scale our businesses, but the right way. I'm also the founder of a boutique studio where I help others who are aligned in building community and memberships do that by through strategy, done for you systems, and just overall helping women in my world truly win. That is actually not what I'm here for. And the truth behind why I want to create this space is I want to know the stories behind the women who are building, the stories behind women who are maybe failing, the stories behind women who look like they've got it all together on social media, because we all do, and how they got there and what's working and not working, and the parts that are really hard, the parts that are really easy that we shouldn't be gatekeeping from each other anymore, and just like the fun stories of what makes us who we are and build the brands we build. And I'm not really talking about the PR version. I'm not talking about the podcast edit. I want the versions of these women that they have when they show up on their couch on a Friday night in their pajamas, hair pulled up in a messy bun, and are willing to really tell it all like they would to a true bestie. This is how you get here. This is what I did. This is what worked and what didn't work. And I want to get to know these women. And I know some of these women are already in my world, and a lot of these women don't even know yet. And I think that is mostly what I'm excited about. I have an overall passion to build community. I have an overall passion to meet women and want to see them win. And this podcast for me felt like another place and space to be able to do that. Since I am only one girl, here in San Diego, California, how can I touch and get to know others? And the podcast is what came up. So this podcast is not going to be your typical podcast. It's not going to be prim and proper. It's not going to be all business strategy. And it's also not going to be all just fun chatter and conversations. It's going to be a blend between the two. It's not going to be your party girl podcast, but it's also not going to be your wellness podcast, because I like to think of myself as like someone who's a little bit balanced. I'm not any of those things. I'm a little bit of everything, and wanting to find a space for other women like me who can relate to where it's like, we're just doing our best here. And this is what that space is. It is going to be truly unfiltered. There's going to be some cussing. So if that offends you, this might not be your space for you. But I promise you, if you want to be in this circle with us and be part of this ride, it's going to be fucking insane and amazing. And I can't wait for it. So beyond who I am and what I do business wise, who am I? In this episode, I really want to give you some of the behind the scenes of who I am and why that affects me as an entrepreneur and me as a female in this space. So, as I say in my intro, I am a Scorpio queen. I am born October 26, 1988. I am officially 37 years old as the time of recording this podcast. So I'm late 30s. I am a girlfriend to an amazing boyfriend who we've been with for about 5 years. I know there'll be a lot to dive in here, but I do not plan to get married. I do not want that traditional fairy tale in what the Disney movies told me I needed to. I'm creating my own story and my own fairy tale, but I have an amazing boyfriend of 4 years. I do live in SoCal. I pretty much have been raised as a West Coast girl my entire life. My boyfriend is an East Coast guy. We met on Hinge during COVID, which, is a whole nother thing, meeting a man in masks. But outside that, I am a pretty independent girl, and it has taken me a lot to let a man in. Let me tell you, I love to ride solo, and I really mean that in terms of I can eat out by myself. I can go to coffee shops. I've traveled the world solo. I can go to a movie solo. Put me at a cafe with a book and a glass of wine. That is my perfect day. So there has been a lot of growing and transitioning for me on how to let somebody into my world. And that's not even just in my relationship, to be honest. It's actually showing up a lot as an entrepreneur. Me and my boyfriend of 5 years have two little doggos that are bugs. They are Boston Terrier pugs, and they're the cutest little things. And every now and then you might see them pop into my videos or do a little bark, but you know what? We're in the upstairs of my apartment, and this is real life. I am also chosen to be child free. And I think I want to tap into this a little bit on this first episode and what it means to me and how it's affecting my life. I do think it's part of my story. I've known for a very long time that being a mother was not my journey. I admire mothers. I think that journey is so cool and so special, but I don't think it's something that we necessarily have to do as women. And I knew pretty early on it wasn't meant for me. There was a point where I talk about kids and marriage and family with ex boyfriends and when I was younger, but I think it came more from a space of that's what the world told me I had to do. That's what movies told me I had to do. That's what Disney told me I had to do, right? Was become a mom and get married. But once I realized around probably 22 years old that there's actually a different path and I don't have to, and I gave myself the permission to not do that, I realized there was this world of being child free and it was okay to say that. I'd say it actually took 5 more years after that for me to get really comfortable just telling complete strangers I wanted to be child free. I'd kind of like dodge the subject a little bit when I met new people, specifically when I was dating people. And I want to be conscious of child free is a different tone. And I think there is a place in the world for us, and there's nothing wrong with us. We are normal people, normal women, don't have a bad mom story. I not have a bad dad story. I don't have all this trauma around my mom. And she actually was an amazing mom and one of my best friends. That's not the reason why. I just realized that I don't have baby fever. I don't have this idea where I want to raise a child. I don't want to deal with all their icky moments. I definitely don't want to deal when they're annoying. That's just children. Then there's like the adults part of it. I just didn't ever see myself having this person in my life. And I think that's okay. And so child free is the definition is by someone choosing to not have children, not by force. And so I want to say that, and I say that out of respect because I do know there's a lot of child free women out there who unfortunately are not here in this space by choice. And they are living a very different path. And so I say mine in the way of like, I've chosen to never get pregnant. I'm choosing not to have babies. I'm not going to try any other avenues of adoption and IVF. None of that is part of my future. Fun fact, I had a hysterectomy this year at 36 years old. So my body also cannot do it. And, I had the hysterectomy for personal reasons, for some health reasons, and we'll dive into those. But I had fibroids in my uterus. And so operating a business while, bleeding to death as a woman was absolutely chaos in my life. And even before I had the fibroids, I knew I didn't want to be a mom. So that actually has nothing to do with it either. But I like to say that I am child free by choice. And I want that to be a story and a part of my podcast because there are a lot of spaces out there for moms. And I almost am jealous of them in a way because I think there's such a cool sisterhood that happens for moms. And I think they deserve that space and they need that space. And I've seen that out of my best friends becoming moms and me not being able to be that person for them anymore in that way. And I give them a different side of me. And, the rich auntie vibes, whatever you might call it, that is me. I'm the auntie who comes in. She's got energy. She's got time. She wants to hang out with the little one. She's not ready to take a nap. But there's so many incredible podcasts for moms. There's so many incredible groups for moms. And there's so many incredible spaces for mompreneurs, and I love them. But I was noticing myself that when I listen to a mompreneur focused podcast, that I still start to feel left out. And I start to feel like I don't align, or I start to feel like maybe they don't think I can be as tired. I don't think I can multitask is more, right? Because I've chosen this different life. And I want this space to be a space for everybody, truly, not just those who've chosen to be child free, but those who are on different journeys than mine. I do want this podcast to be for everyone because I love my mom friends and I love my mompreneur friends, and they will 100% be guests on this podcast and we will be talking about it. But I really want this to be a space for other women who also are choosing to be child free at all stages of life. And I want to learn from them and what those journeys have been and how that's been part of their entrepreneur journey, but their personal journeys as well. So I want this space to be a space for that as entrepreneurs, but 100% it is a space for moms to listen in because I will have my mom friends and we will talk about it. And those who unfortunately are unable to have children, whatever the circumstance has been, I want this to be a space for them also to feel safe, which is a great transition. Safe spaces. is what this podcast will be is a safe space. It'll be a safe space for anyone in my world to become a guest, or if you want to be a guest, and truly listen with an open mind and an open heart. I want the women who listen to this podcast and part of my community and a part of the Bizz Bitch movement to truly feel seen, to feel included, to feel like one of us. That is more of a mission in my life than I even have the right words for. And I've been that way since I was a little girl. I've always really hated like the segmented groups. I've always hated, the cheerleaders versus the band nerds. I'm just like, can we not just all get along? And even like age differences. Like, I love my friends at the younger ones and the older ones. Some of my like wisest moments have came from my friends who are in their 60s and 70s. Some of my funnest moments have come from the girls in their 20s because they have more energy. And I want this podcast to feel like a safe space for all of us. I also love all of my friends from all different parts of the world because I've traveled so much and I understand they have differences in backgrounds. And I respect that and I honor that. I also love my LGBTQIA plus community and I want them to feel seen in this world. And even though my focus is women, I say anyone who identifies, anyone who can get along and get on for this ride with us, this is a space for you. And I want this to be a space that feels really safe to all of us. And so through that, I will make sure that my guests feel safe. The things that they say, the things that they represent are safe spaces as well. And so, yeah, I just really wanted to say that on episode 1. What got me here in my entrepreneur path itself is through an interesting path, but I have worked the corporate world. I've worked for big brands like Marriott and Wells Fargo, and whoever let me be a banker, we're not sure. That should have never been allowed. And it's funny now because one of my best friends is the manager who hired me to work at Wells Fargo, and I'm so thankful for her in like that friendship. But like we both know I was never meant to do that world. The Marriott world is a little bit more aligned. So I am a college dropout. I went to Tempe, Arizona for an arts high school. It was like a charter school. It's when I started to know I wanted to do things a little bit differently because I was in traditional middle school and I was like, this place is icky. Get me out of here. I was allowed to learn through art and I was allowed to make friends in a different way. And the way we all came to school was kind of like early college in a way. We didn't really care about the things normal high schoolers cared about. We cared about like working, hanging out with friends, and creating. And that's where I really started to get to be on this path of what could life look like. I went to school for fashion design in that point of my life because it's what sounded interesting. I do nothing with that now, but it was fun. But what came out of high school was the ability to be able to create and know that you could make a life for yourself through creating and through it being a creative. Also, my best friends came out of that. And, if there's anything else in this world that I am thankful for, it is high school because they are still my best friends today. I decided I wanted to be in a world of events and tourism. So I started working in hotels as a concierge, which is like the best job in the world. Honestly, there is no better job in the world than like planning people's fun vacations, getting them to have fun with you, giving them dinner reservations, and then like the perks of working at a hotel, like discounted hotel rooms, you get to go out to dinner. Honestly, it was such a fun job. But being a concierge at a hotel, I started to see the small pieces of events life and hear about events life. And of course, I watched movies like The Wedding Planner. And so then I was like, oh, do I want to be in weddings? But there's so many more layers to that industry that I didn't know at the time. And then so I started going to school for tourism. And so I did go to a junior college or a community college for a few years with that as my focus. And I was going through it and I was doing well and I was enjoying the classes, but I noticed more and more that I just wanted to show up to the classes that were specific to my industry. And I was learning and I was absorbing it, but I was also working in the industry, which made it so much easier. And there came this pivotal point when I moved to San Diego and I was in college here and I was working pretty full time and going to school. But there was this crossover of like the professors that were teaching me were also people I was either partnering with or were my clients in my like full time job. It's like I'd get on the phone with them, during the day and we'd be closing a deal because I was working in catering at the time. And they would be a venue manager and we'd be closing a deal. And then I'd go to nighttime and they'd be my professor, which I fully respect and I think there's a space for. But it came to a point where I wasn't even really having to study anymore. And I wasn't really having to apply myself to classes and I was just getting the grades and doing well. But I didn't have the finances for it. So I was just putting myself into debt. So I had to have this serious conversation with myself and one of the professors one of the day and was like, hey, should I be doing this? Like I think events and tourism that I think we're here. I think we know what my path is going to be in some way. And I think I know I'm not going to go into a traditional line of work. Like I have an idea here. And without saying it, she said, I think you're going to be okay. Like, I think you're going to be okay. Like, of course, you should finish going to school. But like, if that's something you can't do right now, you're going to be okay. And so that week, I stopped going, thankfully, which I'm so thankful for because I didn't have any debt because of that. And I continued down this path of just trying to grow my name in this industry. And the thing that I did to grow my name in this industry was networking and building community. And I realized early on the relationships that I built could truly affect how I was going to perform in business, what I was going to learn, absorb the people I met. And turning that role at that time of being, someone junior in a catering company to eventually I was running a $1 million catering company and it was owned by three brothers. I was the next person in line. I was their VP of sales. I was, making business decisions for them. I was picking out their brand. I was picking out their website. Right? I did all the marketing, I did all the partnerships. And that's really where I got to sink my little teeth into what entrepreneurship could look like. But I was an entrepreneur essentially in my head, but like with someone else's funding, which is like the ideal choice. But fast forward from that, at 25 years old, I decided to move to Australia. And this is the moment that I think is the most impactful in my career is I was working for Marriott, living abroad, liked kind of what I did, but really hated that hotel specifically and my management team. And there was an event for International Women's Day that was, and I was like, perfect. I'm in sales. It'll be a networking opportunity. Anything I can do to get out of this office, go to an event and meet really cool women, I'm in. So I bought this ticket thinking I'm going to a brunch of like 50 women at brunch for International Women's Day. And I'm like, this will be cute. I'll meet some people. What happened that morning is what changed my life. I walked into a breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning with 1,000 women seated at round tables. So you can imagine like a massive ballroom with a beautiful stage, these women dressed to the nines, but not in like the icky corporate way, dressed to the nines. These women were dressed up and showing up in such cute outfits. And I remember going, wow, I don't know how I'm going to do this one day, but I want to do this one day and I want to do this in my own way. But for now, I'm going to have a seat at this table and fully absorb everything that this is about. And so that was when I first attended a Business Chicks event. Long story short, in that process is I was so obsessed with that company. I ended up leaving that event, looking for every role that I could apply for in that company. I ended up finding a role and I did actually work for them for about 2 years living in Australia. But it was there that I saw two things. It was there the first time I saw a female CEO support women and want to watch them grow and let us lead the way. And she was a big person that I look back on and how I want to lead a company. Liv, if you ever listen to this, know that you are a big part of my life. And also a manager at the time who also equally let me lead the way I wanted to lead by proving. She essentially let me come in when I wanted to, leave when I wanted to, as long as I could prove the numbers and I was doing a good job. But lastly, it's where I saw what happens when, as women, we work together. We work together and we build friendship and we have power and we talk about business and we talk about money and we do that on a large scale. Honestly, there's nothing we can't do. From there, I came back to the States, because I was in love in Australia. Me and my boyfriend broke up and I had to make the decision because of my visa if I was staying there or if I was coming home. And I decided it was time to come home to San Diego. So I came back home to San Diego, had a few different jobs, but I then started working for another women's organization, noticing the through thread called Girls in Tech, where I did a really similar role and didn't have the same experiences with bosses and leaders and watching what happens when you see a good example. And I was like, this is what I don't want to do when I start my own thing. So then COVID happened. And that was the world's biggest kick in the butt for me to become an entrepreneur. Because becoming an entrepreneur is really risky and it's really scary because you're getting rid of all those things that secure you, like medical money that actually comes in, right? And you start to do your own thing. And because of COVID, I had no choice because the events industry and tourism, everything that I knew and how to do was gone. So I started building really slowly at what my first company was, which was Famaven Getaways. I actually talk about Famaven Getaways a lot more on some upcoming episodes. So I'm not going to dive too much into that, but it was a travel brand I had that was group trips for women. As I started to build that, I also needed to make money. And I looked at my skills and said, what can I do? And I had heard this virtual assistant term. And so I started doing some VA work. I had attended a few events locally here in San Diego that were networking groups for women and met a few, like maybe 10 women in that time, and was like, great, I'm going to reach out to them and see if they know anyone who might need some VA work. Well, lo and behold, the first two that I reached out to were like, it's not that we know somebody, we need somebody. Can you help us? I think I didn't even know what my pricing was going to be. I threw together some real quick packages after some research. I think I knew Canva at that time. Yeah, I definitely had Canva like knowledge at that time, threw together like a 2-page Canva thing, sent it over, and I was hired. So I started doing VA work for these people, which is how the kind of beginning life of my studio and more my operations side started. And through that, I then became an OBM. And from the OBM, I have now more of a agency or boutique studio. And I share that because I know what it's like to not really know what you're going to do. I know what it's like to be laid off and feel like you have no other options. I share that because I've been part of involvement in businesses and really finding what I want to do through my businesses. And it has been the most amazing learning points for me to evolve. And so I'm 5 years into entrepreneurship. I've had 3 businesses, 2 are still current and living, 1 is gone, and one of them has had a huge evolvement. So let this be your sign that like we all go through this. And like that business that my travel brand that I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and was like, this is going to be it. This is going to be the business. Nah, girl, it'll change. And if you're someone who it doesn't change and your first business is your golden ticket, that's amazing for you too. But there's so many evolvements. While I was running the OBM side of things and I was thinking about how I was going to get leads and what I enjoyed doing, I went back to that idea of networking and community. And that's how I used to get leads when I worked in traditional sales. So I went back out and I started doing that. I quickly realized by going to events that I didn't really like going to anything and nothing felt right. Nothing felt like what I was looking for. And what I was looking for at that time was like sometimes I work late and sometimes that's at a wine bar. And I enjoy having a glass of wine and a bit of a chat and a really cool scene with my laptop. Cause like I didn't start being an entrepreneur to just like be tied to my desk and my couch. But like, what would this look like if I did it with other people? And at the time, co working spaces weren't really what I was feeling either because there was nothing feeling aligned to what I was looking for. So I started this thing called Wine Wednesdays or Wine and Work. Wine and Work was born, and I would just shoot out emails to different clients and post on social media to my very small following and say, hey, Wine and Work, buy your ticket. We go to a wine bar, we chat. We work for a little bit. We also mastermind and do like elevator pitches, but mainly it's a place for us to get together. Well, I did that and women started coming and they started being obsessed with it. And they said, what if you did more than this? We want more than just this wine work once a month. And that's where the Bizz Bitch movement and the Bizz Bitch community was born. Is entrepreneurship is not meant to be done alone. And I wanted a place for women to be able to come together, to be able to talk about the good parts and the bad parts of being entrepreneurs and being small businesses, but also build friendships and also talk about what they did on the weekend and, go deeper in conversations about their horoscope signs or their human design or dating world, marriage world, being moms, being not moms. I wanted a place where we could get to know each other on a deeper level, kind of like more of a social club meets a networking group. And so that's where Biz Bitch movement was born. And so we meet a few times a week. And it is my most favorite place ever. Essentially, I built the Biz Bitch movement for ambitious, bold, unapologetic, a little bit spicy and sassy women. A place where our businesses and our personalities don't fit in your traditional business box. It's a place where you can show up however you are, whoever you are, and feel seen, heard, safe, but also a little bit sexy and have a little bit of fun and not be afraid to drop in a comment while you're networking that's going to scare somebody off. So let's talk about why you're here and why you should be part of my world and why I want you to be part of my world. Women need a space to feel that they can be honest, a space where they can feel truly like themselves, a space that combines their own personal brand with their business, a space where those worlds kind of become more one and more of a blurred line when we're trying to build and scale and become leaders, a space where we can be vulnerable because that's how we grow and evolve to our next level. We need a space now more than ever in a world where Instagram is so shiny and so fucking perfect to where we can be real, a little bit raw in what's worked and what's not working. I often in some of my events and meetups with the Bizz Bitch community, I'll ask like your financial points. And I can't say it's the women that are struggling or the women that are making lots of money that have a harder time talking about money. Women just have a hard time talking about money. And I want this to be a space where we're more honest about it because I think that's where we can really help each other. And we know men are doing it and they're doing it on the golf course or at the bar, and we deserve that. I want a woman who hasn't been getting leads and is making $0 in her business to be comfortable saying that so we can help her. But I also want the woman who's making $10 million in her business to share that and tell us how the fuck to get there because we want to get there. And I want that blend of the two together. So I want the stories on how it works and also those that are becoming powerhouses, if it's affecting their relationships with their friends or their marriages or even their children, to be able to talk about it because I have no doubt that there's other people out there in the world that can relate to them, to us, and those transitions. And we're all just looking for a little bit of an answer and a little bit of help so we're not feeling so alone in the process. I want this to be a place of expansion. I mean, secretly, kind of just for myself, but for you as well. I want this podcast and these stories and these women that I'm about to start sitting down with to expand the fuck out of me. Like, I want this to be a version of therapy for me and what else is possible and what else I can do and things I've never even thought of. But man, if only I had known about that, I could do it too. I want this to be a place where it expands you to know what is possible and that, like, yes, you can do anything set your mind to. And I will say, a small plug for my mom. My mom always made me feel like and realize that I could do anything I wanted to. Not because I was just a woman, not because I had to, just because whatever you want to do, honey, you can do it. You always do it. You can build it, you can dream it, you can have it, you can call it in. And I want you to feel what it feels like to know that that's possible in your life. These conversations, and I'm pre thinking the women coming on my podcast who I've already got an incredible lineup, and I'm so excited. I recorded one episode, but to be honest, we're probably going to have to record again because, Mercury retrograde just tore us down on the tech side of things. It is what it is. But I want this to be a place for the conversations we're all hoping for. Like, have you ever been at a dinner table, or even at an event, and the topic is just so about weather and so surface level, and you're like, can someone please talk about something more? Can someone please make the joke about their date they went on last night and how they tossed each other's salad for the first time? Or can someone please talk about how their, body odor is really stinky and they need a new product for it? Like, can we please get over talking about the surface level stuff? And I say that because this is something I crave often. And I feel like that is definitely the Scorpio in me who truly just wants to like get in there a little bit deeper. And I found that my best friends in this world are the ones that were able to start those conversations at a table or the first time I met them. And the people I want to bring more into my life and into my bubble are the women who do that. And I can't wait for all these women on this podcast. So this is going to be the space for the conversations we all want to hear and we're hoping to hear, and not in just the lens of personal life and not just the lens of business. It's the two, because I do know there's some incredible podcasts out there that I'm equally obsessed with about just women and friendship in general. And I think they cover a lot of these topics. And then there's a lot of really incredible business podcasts out there, but they're talking more about just straight branding, just straight operations and HR and business strategy. But the blend of the two is the part that I think I'm most excited about because as women, we're not just one or the other. We are fully whole in all of these pieces. And I want to be able to show up like that more often. So, if you're willing to join me on this ride and you're looking for honesty, vulnerability, spiciness, a little bit of sexiness, some taboo topics, strategy, what works, what doesn't work in entrepreneurship, money conversations, definitely relationship conversations, then you found your space and you found your community. And welcome to the world of Bizz Bitch. Nothing is truly off limits here because women are multidimensional, and this is the space we're gonna talk about that more freely. So what you can expect from this space is always on video as much as possible because I do feel like there's a little bit more of a truer connection when I can not see you, but you can see me and see the people that I am talking with and interviewing, mostly in person in terms of my guests, as much as I possibly can. This is my goal. So there will be a focus on San Diego and LA and SoCal to start off with. But eventually, I will travel with it. And so if you think you want to be on this podcast, I would love to have you. There will be a form on my website. And you want to have this open, raw conversation, like, let's fucking do it, girl. Some days, girl, we're going to show up like this in our casual wear. And some days I'm going to show up full glam. And some days I'm going to show up just me at my computer talking to you because what I don't want this to feel like is an overproduced project that also makes me feel like it's too much to get done because I do have two businesses and I have teams and a huge client roster and I do events every week. So I'm going to show up however I can for you in the most authentic possible way possible. And I want you to know that you can expect that from this space. We are shooting for one episode a week in terms of release, but we're going to start with 2 episodes a month. And I say that because I want to be consistent with you and I want you to know where to find us. So, this podcast is for you if you want to celebrate other women, if you want to learn from other women, if you are ready to take an inside look and do a little bit of shadow work on what you've got going on inside yourself, if you are looking to expand into the next version of yourself and do a little bit of identity shift, if you believe in quantum leaps in your business and in your life, also like to have a little bit of girl talk and talk about relationships and sex and friendships and all that other stuff. If you're a little bit woo woo, okay, maybe a lot of it woo woo. We'll definitely be going into all of that stuff, but you're also just a little bit normal. It's for you if you're on a wellness journey or you still like a glass of wine and some carbs. I'm trying to create a space for all of us because, like I said, I am all of them. And so I want this to be a space for you. And through that, I would also love to know what you want to know about. So, like, please in the comments, drop the episodes on the topics that you wish you have heard on a podcast before, but have never had brought up before. This podcast is for you if some days you love eating wings at a dive bar, and also for you if some days you love flying business class and hanging out the airport lounges and staying at 5-star hotels. If you believe that luxury can be mixed with grit, if you believe that business can be done on your own terms, if you have been feeling out of line with your own brand and your own self and are ready to step out and be more truly authentic to yourself, aka calling your company Bizz Bitch, aka all your brand photos have a glass of wine in it and your tits out. Yeah, welcome to my world in a space where I am calling you in to show up however you want to be in your world. And that could also be the complete opposite of that, but I want you to feel like it's a space for you to be authentically you. It is a space for women to be able to come to the table and feel like they have found their new biz bestie. So with that, that is episode 1 and getting to know a little bit about me, what we're doing in this space, how we're going to show up. The topics I have coming for you are so good about business shifts and business pivots, about business partnerships, the good, the bad, the ugly, about open marriages and building businesses together. We have moving different countries and when it's worked and also when it's not gone well. We have talking about building businesses and new cultures. We have talking about other women who have chosen to be child free and also not want to get married, who are building empires, who've done it a little bit more secretly or are more willing to come out and talk about it now. We're talking about all the things. So follow the space, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to this podcast. Please let me know in the comments what you want to hear about. If you think you want to be a guest on this podcast, go fill out the form. I would love to have you. Please like, rate, and review. Tell me how you're feeling about this podcast. And I'm so excited to see you next time. Bye, bitches.